This way, both you and the group members can quickly recover funds and cut your losses, while our company still keeps a margin and some risk protection. Mr. Wen's smile froze when Lin Yang said 80%. He hadn't expected Lin Yang to offer such a steep discount. His eyes flickered with indecision as he quickly ran the numbers in his head. Selling at 20% of market value would recover funds fast, but the group members would take a serious hit. As the group leader entrusted with negotiations, that would be a hard sell. Still, he knew Lin Yang wasn't unreasonable. The buyer must have smelled their urgency, and the property market was uncertain. Holding on could mean even bigger losses. Gritting his teeth, he pushed for one last concession. Chairman Lin, that's too low. He adopted a conciliatory tone. The houses are in good locations with solid layouts and well-done renovations. An 80% price would be too damaging. It has to be at least 85%. That's the lowest we can accept. As he watched Lin Yang for any sign of softening, Lin Yang gave a slight, composed smile. Mr. Wen, I understand your position. No one wants to lose money, but you also have to see our side. Putting so much capital together at once carries huge risk. As you said, the market is uncertain. While 80% looks low, it lets you and the group members get out of a tight spot quickly and recover liquid funds. For everyone involved, that's the best option. There was nothing aggressive in Lin Yang's voice, only steady confidence. Mr. Wen's fingers tapped the conference table as he considered the words. The room felt suddenly tense, the tapping sounding disproportionately loud. After a long moment, he looked up. Chairman Lin, you make a good point. I can see you're sincere. Let me consult the group members. After all, these are their properties. All right. Mr. Wen picked up his phone and posted in the group. Everyone, I'm in a meeting with the CEO of Yangshu Capital. He's only willing to buy at 80% of market price. Thoughts? Replies came flooding in. I agree. I agree too. Sing City has a 5-year resale restriction on newly purchased houses. Our money has been tied up. If someone will take them now, let's sell, even if the price is low. Recovering capital is the priority. They haven't appreciated in 5 years. Better to cut losses early. Mr. Wen felt the same way as the others. A house isn't worth anything until it's sold. With the group's approval, he turned back to Lin Yang. Chairman Lin, everyone agrees. Let's sign. Lin Yang and Hu Qian exchanged pleased looks. Lin Yang extended his hand. Mr. Wen visibly relaxed and took it, clasping firmly. Good, it's settled. Glad to work with you. They finalized the deal. 80% of market price, 8,500 per square meter, for all 108 apartments in Sunshine Lijing residential area. The contract signing proceeded calmly. Hu Qian took the prepped purchase agreements from a filing cabinet and laid them out, explaining each clause, property details, price, payment, delivery timelines, and the rights and obligations of both parties. Mr. Wen read carefully and asked occasional questions. Lin Yang and Hu Qian answered patiently. Satisfied, Mr. Wen signed, then Lin Yang. The transaction was complete. Relief softened Mr. Wen's face. He stood and shook hands again with Lin Yang and Hu Qian. Chairman Lin, CEO Hu, a pleasure. I hope we can cooperate again. They smiled and saw him out. Back in the office, Hu Qian teased Lin Yang lightly. Chairman Lin, you squeezed Mr. Wen so hard he almost had nothing left to say. Lin Yang laughed. No merchant is without guile. Right now I'm a businessman, so I must do my part. Business is a battlefield, every negotiation a chess match. Seizing the moment and staying prudent is how we make a foothold. Getting these houses at this price took both luck and strength. Hu Qian shook her head, smiling. She admired his skill. News of the purchase spread fast through the company. The open office erupted when employees learned Lin Yang had bought 108 apartments at such a discount. Praise and excitement filled the space. Chairman Lin is incredible. 108 units at that price. His negotiation skills are unbeatable. A new hire, Xiao Li, gaped, voice rising with admiration. I've worked in this industry for years and never seen a boss like him. Imagine the profit from these units. With Chairman Lin, our future is limitless. Old Zhang thumped a thumb up, pride on his face as if he'd shared in the victory. A group of female employees clustered, cheeks flushed and eyes bright. He's capable and handsome. Perfect. I'll make him my role model and work hard to be like him. Their chatter suddenly shifted to curiosity. But why would Mr. Lin buy Sunshine Lijing? It doesn't seem to have much upside. Yeah, why target these units? The next morning, Hu Qian and Mr. Wen went to the government service hall to complete the transfer procedures. The hall buzzed with people. Following staff guidance, they submitted contracts, IDs, deeds, each document carefully reviewed. Mr. Wen kept smiling, chatting with Hu Qian about how relieved he felt. Hu Qian focused on making sure every step was correct. After several hours, the transfers for all 108 apartments were done. The staff handed Hu Qian a fresh stack of property deeds. Holding them, she felt a surge of accomplishment. These deeds weren't just paperwork, they were evidence of the company's move into the market. Mr. Wen sighed with relief and immediately posted the news in the Wenzhou property speculation group. Brothers, good news. Our 108 apartments in Sunshine Lijing have been sold to Yangshu Capital. Money will be in our accounts soon. Trapped funds are coming back. He attached a photo of himself with Hu Qian at the service hall and a picture of the deeds. The group exploded with notifications. Great, we finally ditched this hot potato. These years were suffocating. Now capital can circulate. Thank you, group owner. You've worked hard. Some voices mocked Yangshu Capital. What a sucker, buying their mess. Sunshine Lijing has poor location and amenities. It won't appreciate. Yeah, they must be playing charity, money to burn. Then one member forwarded a news link with a stark warning. Don't be too happy. Read this. Curiosity swept through the group. The headline read, Sunshine Lijing designated as Mount Lu International Primary and Nanya Middle School District. Housing prices skyrocket, units suddenly scarce. The message hit like a bomb. Those who had mocked Yangshu were stunned into silence, then disbelief and regret. How is this possible? Sunshine Lijing suddenly becomes a top school district? Is this for real? It's official. The news just went out. It's true, came the reply. How unlucky are we? Someone hissed. We just sold the apartments and now prices soar. This is a massive loss. Xiaoli slapped his thigh as if punishing his own short-sightedness. If I'd known, I never would have sold. How much did we lose? Old Zhang's voice trembled with regret, edged with a sob as he imagined the low-priced units now rocketing in value. The room swam with bitter disbelief. An opportunity lost, and a decision that suddenly felt painfully irreversible. This isn't a joke, is it? We just sold our houses and now this? Oh my God, this is so unlucky. If only I'd known, I'd have waited a few days. I regret it so much. It's over. We've lost big. I was counting on those houses to make a fortune, and now it's gone. Messages poured into the group chat, one after another. Anger, regret, self-recrimination. Some blamed their own impulsiveness. Others began pointing fingers. Then the quick-witted old Zhang typed, Everyone, don't panic. Have the transfers gone through yet? If it's only the contract signed and not transferred, we might still do something. At worst, we pay liquidated damages. That's better than losing everything. The chat fell silent, waiting. Everyone had trusted the group owner with the sales. Finally, the reply came, The transfers have already been completed. Silence broke into a furious, suffocating roar. The mood snapped. Someone aimed a finger at the group owner, Mr. Wen. This is your fault for being hasty and not checking. If you'd waited half a day, we wouldn't be in this mess. Exactly. Group owner, what were you thinking? These were everyone's houses. Couldn't you have been more careful? Now we've been hugely defrauded because of you. Accusations flooded the chat. Mr. Wen's face drained of color as he read the messages. He had acted from goodwill, trying to help everyone out quickly, and now he was being blamed. Anger and hurt coiled in him until he couldn't help replying. Do you have any conscience? I did this to help everyone recover funds and reduce losses. The market was terrible then. Houses wouldn't sell, and everyone was desperate. Now prices soar, and you dump all the blame on me. What were you doing back then? Would you have done any better? He tapped furiously, each sentence edged with grievance. Do you know how long I negotiated with Yangshu Capital to get that price? I'm the group owner. I wanted the best for everyone. Given the situation, being able to sell, even at an 80% discount, was already a good result. If you were capable, why didn't you negotiate yourselves? His words only fueled the chaos. Accusations returned in greater volume. Don't make excuses. You were incompetent and got fooled by Yangshu Capital. What good does it do now? Who's compensating us? The group chat became a battlefield. Mr. Wen scrolled helplessly through the messages, stunned to see his goodwill turned into blame. Outside the government affairs hall, Hu Chan watched him storm off, bewildered. He had been cordial moments before. Now he left without a word. She called after him softly, "Mr. Wen, what's wrong?" But he was already gone. Her phone rang. It was her assistant, Xiao Lu. "Miss Hu, have you heard? Sunshine Lijing has been designated as a school district for a prestigious school. House prices have doubled. Sudden shortage everywhere." "What?" The word nearly escaped her as the phone almost slipped from her hand. Hu Chan froze, then forced herself to steady her voice. "Is this true?" "Absolutely. It's even in the news." She hung up and went pale. She remembered Lin Yang's decision to buy properties in Sunshine Lijing. She had wondered then why he'd snapped up places that seemed to have little upside. Now she understood the scale of what he'd known. How did he find out? How had he acted so quickly? Hu Chan began to do the math. The company had bought 58 houses there through agencies, plus 108 houses from the Wenzhou speculation group, 166 properties in all, totaling nearly 17,000 square meters. At an 8,500 yuan profit per square meter, the return topped 140 million yuan. "That's over 140 million, she whispered. "Many companies don't make that in a year, and he did it in days. He's incredible." A complex look crossed her face, admiration for Lin Yang and lingering regret at not seeing the opportunity sooner. At home, Lin Yang was in his room packing with his parents for the family's island trip. Sunlight streaked the floor. "Son, did you bring the sunscreen? The sun's strong down by the sea," his mother said, holding up a bottle. "Don't worry, Mom. Chen Qingqing packed everything," he replied, folding clothes. A stream of notifications interrupted the warm scene. Lin Yang frowned and picked up his phone. The messages were from his university class group, odd since he'd set it to Do Not Disturb. He opened the chat and saw the headline that made him sit up. Sunshine Lijing had been designated a school district this morning, and house prices had immediately doubled. Dozens of homeowners who'd sold before the announcement were now clamoring at agencies for refunds or compensation. The news had rippled across Sing City. Lin Yang allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. He read the thread as classmates speculated. "Ridiculous. Once you've sold, it's sold. Making a fuss now won't change it," wrote Wang Chang with a crying, laughing emoji. "It's easy to say that. If your house doubled in value overnight, could you accept it?" Li Yue replied, sympathetic. "Who bought all the available houses in Sunshine Lijing at once? Whoever did must have made a fortune." Zhang Yu added. "Bet it was a tycoon with inside info," Zhao Gang guessed. "Maybe a real estate company that specializes in speculation," others chimed in. "If I'd known, I'd have thrown everything into it." "It's not like anyone really knows in advance," someone joked. "If they did, they'd be the richest person alive." The chat buzzed with theories. Lin Yang scrolled without participating. He knew exactly who that mysterious buyer was. Hu Qian had just come back from the government affairs hall after finishing some transfer paperwork when she sensed something different the moment she stepped into the office. The company was alive with chatter. Small clusters of employees gathered everywhere, faces alight with excitement, some even walking with a spring in their step as if they had wings. "The boss has such foresight," one young employee said, admiration lacing his voice. "He invested in Sunshine Lijing residential area when no one else would." At the time, everyone thought that neighborhood was too remote, with few amenities and stagnant prices, another replied. Who would have thought it would suddenly be designated a top school district and housing prices would double? "He's amazing, so young and so capable," someone else said, eyes shining. "I wasn't with the company long when I followed him into this project," a colleague added. "I had my doubts, but now I can see it was nothing short of genius." An intern, barely out of college, blurted out with a hopeful sigh, "If I could have even half the boss's talent, I'd be happy for life." Hu Qian listened to them with a small, relieved smile. Working with Lin Yang and watching him turn one bold move into another business miracle had been the right decision. Still, his brilliance made her feel a touch inadequate sometimes. He was so far ahead that a little pang of inferiority crept in whenever she compared herself to him. Across town, in the executive office at Liang Qiwan Group headquarters, Xiangnan's richest man, Liang Dingen, sat in his leather chair while his assistant briefed him. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, outlining the lines on Liang's dignified face as he listened. General Manager Liang, Lin Yang's company made a huge play in the last few days, the assistant said, leaning forward with barely disguised astonishment. They bought up every available property in Sunshine Lijing residential area. Right after they closed, the area was designated a top school district, and prices doubled. Properties are scarce now. In just a few days, they've turned a 100% profit. The pen in Liang's hand paused. He set it down, leaned back, and stared at the assistant in disbelief. Are you sure? Absolutely, General Manager Liang. The assistant nodded. Everyone in Qing City has been talking about it. Liang thought back to his early years, how he'd started with no background, no capital, how many doors had closed in his face, how many bad decisions had nearly ruined his company. That a man only a few years out of university could navigate such a complex market so precisely impressed him. At first, I thought he must have had inside information, he said. The assistant continued, uncertain. But our checks show Lin Yang doesn't have powerful government ties, just a minor section chief in the planning bureau, a classmate from university. It doesn't explain how he could snap up every property in that neighborhood. Liang frowned, curiosity piqued. Then the assistant dropped another surprise. They're also negotiating to buy 3 abandoned gas stations. Liang's interest sharpened. Where are they? The assistant racked his memory and recited, all along Metro Line 8, Wangyu Road Station, Second Ring Station, and Moon Island Station. Those names made Liang's heart skip. The 3 locations were currently remote, overgrown, lacking infrastructure, and almost empty of foot traffic, but precisely for that reason they held huge future potential. They were the uncut gems Liang had been eyeing for a long-planned development, a mixed-use complex combining commerce, housing, and leisure that would create a new economic hub in Qing City. He had kept that plan to himself. Even his closest aides didn't know. The idea that Lin Yang had quietly moved on those very parcels stunned him. Had the young man foreseen the future? Liang shook his head to dispel the fanciful thought. He had spent decades in business. Nothing happened without cause. It made more sense that Lin Yang simply had a keen nose for opportunity, the kind of sharp market instinct Liang respected. If he could harness that talent, it would be like putting wings on a tiger. Decisive now, Liang looked at his assistant. Monitor everything Lin Yang does. Report every move and every decision to me in detail. He's proven his ability. Next, pay attention to his character, how he behaves in life and with partners. If his character matches his talent, I want to consider him as a future leader of our company. Understood, General Manager Liang, the assistant said, thrilled and slightly intimidated by the task. No sooner had the assistant left than Liang's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and saw the caller. Wang Boyan, president of Xinjiang University. Liang and Wang were old comrades who had served in the army together, later keeping in touch through the years. Wang's voice was warm and familiar when Liang answered. Hello, old Wang, long time no see. Old Liang, long time, Wang replied. June 28th is Xinjiang University's centennial. It's a big event for the school. With you, the richest man in Shangnan present will certainly shine. Of course, Long said without hesitation. I'll be there. Then Long remembered something. Lin Yang was also a graduate of Xinjiang University. A plan formed. He smiled and casually mentioned, I recently met a promising young man who graduated from your school. You've seen the headlines about Yangshu Capital, haven't you? That's his company. Wang's tone shifted to one of pride and curiosity. Yangshu Capital had been all anyone talked about in Qing City, especially after the quick play in Sunshine Lijing that earned such extraordinary returns. Really? He's one of ours? Wang asked. Liang's expression grew a shade more calculating. I admire the young man's talent, but the business world is more than skill. Character matters. I'd like to see how he handles recognition, invite him back for the centennial, and have him speak as a representative of outstanding alumni. I want to see how he conducts himself when given honor. Wang liked the idea. Good thinking. I'll make the arrangements. After hanging up, Wang Boyun immediately told his assistant to find Lin Yang's contact information and prepare the invitation. Binjiang Bay. After lunch, Lin Yang was sitting on his balcony, enjoying the river view and the light breeze, feeling completely at ease. The peace was broken by the sudden ringing of his phone. He glanced at the screen, an unfamiliar local number from Xing City. With a flicker of curiosity, he answered. "Hello?" A warm, courteous voice came through. "May I speak with Lin Yang? This is Minister Li from the Publicity Department of Xingcheng University." Lin Yang straightened. A call from his alma mater's publicity department. He hadn't expected that. "Hello, Minister Li. This is Lin Yang. How can I help?" There was a smile in the voice on the other end. "Lin Yang, our university will celebrate its centennial on June 28th. After careful consideration, we would like to invite you back as a representative of outstanding alumni. We hope you'll come and speak on stage, share your journey and success with the students." Lin Yang felt the phone grow a little heavier in his hand. Invited back as an outstanding alumnus and asked to speak, he could hardly believe it. Xingcheng University had produced countless talents. To be singled out like this was a rare honor, a recognition he hadn't dared to hope for. "Minister Li, I'm truly honored. Thank you so much. I'd be delighted to attend." His voice trembled with restrained excitement. After the call, he sat there for a long time, heart racing. This was more than a personal honor. This centennial would gather many eminent alumni and leaders. Reconnecting with them could open doors to business partnerships, shared resources, and exchanges of experience. The prospects were intoxicating. A moment later, his phone chimed with an electronic invitation. He opened it eagerly. The invitation was elegantly designed, solemn yet celebratory. At the top, gilded letters read, "Xingcheng University Centennial Celebration Invitation." Beneath, his name, Lin Yang, was printed as if the university itself had placed a weight of expectation on each character. The date was June 28th. The venue, the university's main auditorium. Imagining the auditorium filled with distinguished guests and familiar faces, Lin Yang felt his anticipation swell. Before he could sink further into daydreams, the phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed a familiar name, Shi Kong, a classmate from university. Lin Yang's lips curved into a small smile as he answered. "Hello, Shi Kong. Long time no see. How have you been?" "Long time no see? Lin Yang." Shi Kong's voice was upbeat. "Listen, the Maybach lawsuit is going to court next month. We're asking for a refund and triple compensation. My cousin Shijia says we've got solid evidence and a good chance of winning." Lin Yang nodded, though Shi Kong couldn't see him. The clause for a refund and triple damages is useful, but winning that in practice is never easy. This will go smoothly, mainly because of your cousin and Runhei International Group's legal team. An ordinary person would have trouble pulling this off. There was a proud chuckle. "Yeah, we were lucky. Oh, and the centennial is on the 28th. Are you going back? Lots of classmates will be in town. We should have a reunion." Shi Kong had long wanted to get closer to Lin Yang. The centennial was a perfect excuse. Lin Yang remembered the university's invitation and smiled. "I'll be there." Shi Kong's voice lit up. "Great. You're the pride of our class, Lin Yang. After the celebration, dinner's on me. Tianhua Grand Hotel. You must come." His tone was friendly but flattering, full of the eager largesse of someone who liked to impress. After they hung up, Shi Kong immediately opened the class group chat and started firing off messages, tagging everyone. "June 28th, Centennial Celebration. Who's coming back? Sign up so I can book a table at Tianhua Grand Hotel. Drinks on me." The group erupted. "Shi Kong, you're a big section chief now? Young and promising. We'll make you pay for that dinner." One classmate wrote, brimming with flattery. "Section Chief Shi, take care of your old classmates," chimed another. Shi Kong basked in the praise, but feigned modesty. "I'm nothing special. The one doing really well is Lin Yang. We should all learn from him." That only fueled more adulation. "Exactly. Lin Yang's the real success. So young, already driving a luxury car and doing so well. We should all take notes." The messages kept coming, piling compliments on Lin Yang until the chat looked like a fan club. Watching the stream of praise, Zhao Yu felt a sourness in his chest. To him, these classmates were shallow in their admiration. He thought of his own standing, of what true recognition looked like, and couldn't hold back. He typed into the group with a sharp edge. "You two must have gotten invited already, right? At every centennial, the university invites successful alumni back. Only those who get an invite are really doing well. That's the standard. The comment landed like a flat stone in the buzzing chat, carrying a thinly veiled jab at the fawning tone of the others. Shi Kong was at a loss for words when Zhao Yu threw the question at him. What Zhao Yu had said was true. Xinjiang University graduated thousands, sometimes more than 10,000, students a year. Over the decades, that added up to several 100,000 alumni. But invitations to the university's centennial celebration as an outstanding graduate were limited to only a few hundred people, truly a 1 in 1,000 selection. Shi Kong, for all his pride as a section chief in the planning bureau, simply hadn't accomplished enough to merit such an honor. He had intended to let the matter slide, but Zhao Yu wouldn't let it go. He kept ing both Shi Kong and Lin Yang in the class group, each message dripping with provocation. How about it? Have you received your invitations? If you have, just say so. If not, don't hide it. What's the big deal? The tone made the chat awkward. A few classmates jumped in to smooth things over. Zhao Yu, we're old classmates. Don't be like that, someone said. Besides, even if Shi Kong and Lin Yang don't have invitations, what about you? Last I heard, you weren't exactly rolling in success. Come on, everybody knows Lin Yang is the big shot in our class. He's even got $1 million car, another chimed in. The group filled with overlapping comments. The conversation was loud and lively. Then Zhao Yu posted a photo. It was an invitation to Xinjiang University's centennial celebration, embossed and formal, bearing Zhao Yu's name. The chat exploded with astonished emojis and a flood of messages. Is this real? No way. This can't be fake, can it? Zhao Yu, you're going against the heavens. You actually got an invitation. Someone sent a wide-eyed emoji and immediately demanded, how did you pull this off? Tell us. Man, Zhao Yu, you're a hidden talent, hired by Sani Group and already a development director? That's not small potatoes. Compliments, envy, and curiosity poured in. Zhao Yu watched the messages scroll and savored the attention. Then, adopting a breezy humility, he typed, "You're flattering me. I was just lucky, caught a good opportunity, and worked a bit harder than usual." His modesty read as self-satisfied showmanship. Classmates pressed him for more. Don't be modest. Being a development director at Sani isn't luck. You've got to tell us your story. Future projects, too. Don't forget your classmates. Yeah, if you ever have something big, bring an old classmate along, someone added, already picturing themselves rising with him. Zhao Yu, you're our class celebrity now. When you're out, say we're your classmates so we can bask in your glory. The chat filled with laughter and thumbs-up reactions. Shi Kong watched, stung, as the same people who'd praised him now lavished their words on Zhao Yu. He felt the hollow weight of his modest title in comparison to Zhao Yu's corporate rank, and there was nothing he could do about it. Zhao Yu fed the moment. Actually, the most exciting part of the celebration is that one of the outstanding graduate representatives will speak on stage. I've been told he'll be personally introduced by General Manager Lin Yang. That suggests this person is something special. There might even be room to collaborate with Manager Lin Yang in the future. That line was a pebble that sent a tidal wave through the chat. Emojis of shock and envy multiplied. One classmate sent a dramatic voice message, breathless with excitement. Wow, personally introduced by General Manager Lin Yang? Unthinkable. A cascade of follow-up questions filled the group. Who is the speaker? Tell us more, Zhao Yu. Don't keep us hanging. Who exactly is getting the intro? Someone else teased. Zhao Yu, this is breaking news. After the event, you'd better tell us everything so we can all feel like we were in the same room as the richest man. Speculation ran wild. Some guessed the speaker would be a famous entrepreneur. Others imagined a leading academic. When Zhao Yu replied with playful secrecy, heaven's secrets can't be revealed. You'll all find out at the celebration. It only fueled their imaginations. The topic gradually shifted from the identity of the speaker to reunion logistics and fantasies. What to wear so they'd look good on campus again, plans to gather afterward and swap stories, the nostalgia of being back where their younger selves had once been, full of expectation. I didn't think an anniversary could make us this excited, one classmate wrote. It feels like we're back in our student days, dreaming big. Exactly, another said. Even after all these years, our feelings for the school are still there. Maybe this will bring back some of that old drive. None of the chatter reached Lin Yang. He had muted the group the last time they'd argued about housing prices in Sunshine Lijing residential area. He hadn't looked back. At that moment, he was packing suitcases with his parents, getting ready to drive to the airport for a family trip to South Sea Island, totally unaware that his name was the centerpiece of the class's excitement about a mysterious speaker. Lin Yang had won the family island trip from a vending machine not long after he got the system, all because he bought an iced red tea. The prize covered round-trip airfare for the whole family and 7 days, 6 nights at a 5-star hotel. One of the days was reserved for a brand event, the rest were free. The brand provided tickets to a few attractions, but the family could choose what to use and schedule the rest themselves. When his secretary, Chen Qingqing, helped him redeem the prize, she noticed the booking allowed up to 4 people. Her eyes brightened. "It's free," she said to Lin Yang. "Why waste it? Let me take the extra spot. I can go as your secretary, be your guide, and still handle things." Lin Yang was a little puzzled. He'd never understood why Chen Qingqing, who could have easily been a boss in her own right, insisted on being his secretary, but since she wanted to come, he didn't mind. It was free, and even if it had cost something, he had far more than enough. He liked her company. Another person would make the trip livelier. He agreed. Chen Qingqing was thrilled, but a small problem came up filling in the relationship information. Lin Yang's spots for his parents were naturally listed as parents. For herself, Chen Qingqing tried friend, but the application was rejected. It was a family trip. Only family members could attend. With a quick, decisive glance, she filled in couple. To her surprise, the application was approved in seconds. She smiled faintly. Lin Yang barely registered the wrinkle of expression and simply looked forward to the trip. On May 28th, the weather was perfect. Warm sun and a gentle breeze. By 9 in the morning, Lin Yang and his parents had packed and were ready. Lin Yang drove them to Chen Qingqing's apartment and rang the bell. She came out with a light backpack and a bright, eager face. "Uncle, Auntie, Lin Yang, let's go. I can't wait to get to the island," she greeted them. They piled into the car and headed for the airport. Chen Qingqing took on the role of attentive trip planner in the passenger seat. "We're there for 7 days and 6 nights, she reminded them. "On day 3, we'll help the brand with their promo event. The rest of the time is ours. I've looked up some activities. We can go diving, see coral and tropical fish." Lin Yang and his parents nodded, excited. The drive was filled with light conversation and laughter. An hour later, they arrived at the busy airport. Travel season had turned the terminal into organized chaos. People towing luggage, long queues at every security lane, clusters of travelers waiting. Just as they joined the flow toward security, a uniformed ground staff member with a professional air hurried over. He approached Chen Qingqing first. "Miss Chen, where are you headed? Why didn't you let us know you were traveling? I could have arranged a VIP channel for you." Chen Qingqing froze for a heartbeat. She didn't want to reveal any special identity. She winked at him, a quick, private signal. The man caught the hint. He looked almost embarrassed. "I apologize. I must have mistaken you for someone else. Still, I see you have 2 elderly passengers. You may use the priority lane. Please follow me." "Okay." Chen Qingqing answered quickly, beckoning Lin Yang and his parents to follow. The ground staff led them to a closed-off, quiet channel nearby. The security guard on duty stepped aside when he saw the staff member escorting them and gestured them through with respectful formality. As soon as they were inside, the entrance was blocked again. Lin Yang was puzzled. He knew airports had priority lanes, but those still had queues. This one was empty, almost hush, with dedicated security personnel and unusually patient, gentle service. His parents, flying for the first time, moved slowly, fumbling with their belongings, and the staff there took time to explain everything to them calmly and kindly. Lin Yang had heard about premium VIP channels that wealthy travelers and celebrities used to avoid crowds, absurdly expensive, sometimes 4,000 or 5,000 yuan per use, more than many first-class fares. He wondered if Chen Qingqing had secretly paid for this. He wasn't about to let her foot the bill alone. When they were past security and his parents were reorganizing their luggage, he leaned toward her. We used a premium channel, right? Tell me how much, I'll reimburse you. He said it with a resolute tone that left no room for argument. Coincidentally, Shen, a popular celebrity who flew constantly, was arriving at the same airport. To save time and avoid fan recognition, he routinely purchased this VIP channel for 5,000 yuan a trip. He arrived with his face covered by a large hat and a mask, only his eyes showing, and was flanked by his assistant, Xiao Pi. Shen scanned the terminal from habit and headed for a lane that looked empty. A security officer stopped him with a hand raised. "Sir, this channel is not open." Shen frowned. Xiao Pi, bristling, waved the SVIP purchase proof at the guard. "Look, we bought the SVIP channel." The guard didn't relent. He pointed to another SVIP lane a short distance away. "Sir, the SVIP channel is over there." Xiao Pi looked and saw people standing in the queue, fewer than in the other lanes, but a line nonetheless. He was furious. "You're lying," he snapped. "You just let 4 people who looked like a family go in." The guard stayed calm and professional. That was a VIP lane, not open to the public. Xiao Pi was boiling. "Does your SVIP have levels? If you won't let us in, I'll expose you online. What's the point of buying VIP if you still have to wait like everyone else?" He shouted loud enough to attract the attention of other passengers. People glanced over, curious. Shen stood beside him, silent. His eyes narrowed in displeasure and confusion as the scene unfolded. "What's happening over there?" The commotion caused by Shen had drawn the attention of passengers queued at security. "I heard a celebrity tried to use the special lane and got stopped." "What? Even celebrities get turned away. Who were those people who just went through it then?" "A friend of mine said the airport has a VIP channel reserved for people of a certain standing. Celebrities don't count next to those kinds of people." A hush ran through the crowd as speculation spread. No one had expected the people who slipped past to be so important. Inside the airport VIP lounge, Pan Chi, CEO of Shuguang Electronics, reclined comfortably on a sofa. A faint, confident smile played on his lips. He carried the calm, polished air of a successful man. Around him clustered 4 or 5 well-known entrepreneurs from Xing City, all impeccably dressed and fawning. They hung on his every word. "Chairman Pan, what you've done for Shuguang Electronics is remarkable," one plump businessman gushed, beaming. "Your business sense and decisiveness are unmatched. We all have a lot to learn from you," another chimed in. "Under your leadership, the company's become a model for Xing City," a third added. "We'll have to count on you to guide our smaller firms in the future." Pan Chi basked in the praise, nodding modestly. "You flatter me. It's the result of everyone's hard work. Enterprises in Xing City should support each other." His voice was low and magnetic, each word measured. Then a familiar figure passed the lounge entrance, and Pan Chi's attention snapped to him. His pupils narrowed in surprise as recognition settled in. "Isn't that the young man from the Mount Lu auction? The one Liang Dingen, Xiangnan's richest man, spent $1 billion on an ancient book for. So young and close enough to Liang to receive such a gift, he must have serious backing." A hopeful spark lit in Pan Chi's chest. Shuguang Electronics had been courting a few financial headaches lately. If he could get close to Long Dingen through this young man, their problems might be solved. He rose abruptly and hurried for the door, his movement so sudden the surrounding entrepreneurs jumped. "What's the matter? Where are you going?" one of them asked, baffled. Pan Chi's urgency was contagious. The others exchanged curious looks, then rose and followed him, eager to see whom he had recognized. Lin Yang and his group reached the airport in time. After security, Chen Qingqing led them toward the boarding gate. Just as they approached it, Lin Yang heard someone call his name. He turned to see a distinguished middle-aged man striding up, well-cut black suit, crisp white shirt, dark blue tie, approachable smile. He didn't place the face at first, but the man seemed to know him. "You are?" Lin Yang asked, puzzled. "I'm Pan Chi, chairman of Shuguang Group. We met at the auction last month," the man said with an easy warmth. "Hello, Chairman Pan," Lin Yang replied politely. The auction clicked into place in his memory, the scene where Liang Dingen had spent $1 billion to buy an ancient book and publicly hand it to Lin Yang, a move meant to help him build connections. So this was the same Pan Chi, one of the contacts cultivated by that event. Pan Chi's interest was obvious. "Where are you headed, Mr. Lin?" Lin Yang answered smoothly and respectfully, I'm taking my parents to Hainan Island. They've worked hard their whole lives, and I wanted to give them a break. Pan Chi glanced at the parents with genuine, if slightly envious, approval. How filial. I'm going to Shanghai with some entrepreneurs from Xing City for an investment promotion. Our company's airport lounge is private, quiet, well-appointed. Mr. Lin, would you like to come in and rest a while? He gestured toward the VIP lounge, as if inviting them into a sanctuary. Lin Yang declined politely. Thank you for the offer, Chairman Pan, but we're about to board. Maybe another time. Pan Chi smiled without pressing the matter. A pity. I hope you and your parents have a pleasant trip. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to contact me. He produced a business card and handed it to Lin Yang with both hands. The card was neat and tasteful, bearing his name, title, and contact details. Lin Yang accepted it with both hands, scanned it briefly, then stowed it away. Thank you, Chairman Pan. I'll keep it safe. At the same time, Chen Qingqing took a business card from Lin Yang's stack and offered it to Pan Chi with a graceful courtesy. When Pan Chi took it, his eyes flicked to her and tightened. Recognition and surprise flashed across his face. Chen Qingqing? He thought. The daughter of Chen Zhengguo, Xing City's richest man. Why is she traveling with Mr. Lin? For a moment his expression froze before he recovered, but his mind raced. If Lin Yang could travel with someone of Chen Qingqing's standing, his background was far more complex than Pan Chi had first suspected. Once Lin Yang and his group were gone, the entrepreneurs who had followed Pan Chi crowded around him, buzzing with questions. Who was that? You treated him so respectfully. He must be important, right? The plump manager demanded. You saw him too? Tell us. We thought something huge was happening, another urged. Pan Chi smiled and led them back into the lounge. You remember the Mount Lu auction last month? He prompted, lowering his voice so the story felt intimate. Of course, someone answered. I didn't go, but I heard Liang Dingan spent $1 billion on an ancient book and gave it to a young man. It was the talk of the whole business circle. That young man, could it have been him? Another piped up, eyes wide. Why didn't you say so earlier? We could have introduced ourselves. The others complained in unison, their faces a mix of regret and irritation at having missed the chance to connect. Pan Chi only smiled, thinking of the possibilities that connection might open. After saying goodbye to Pan Chi, Lin Yang and his family followed Chen Qingqing straight to the boarding gate. The boarding announcement was already playing over the loudspeakers, and passengers for their flight were queued along the left side of the gate. Chen Qingqing led them to the entrance on the right, where no one was waiting. Lin Yang's mother, Yang Keishia, tugged on Chen Qingqing's sleeve. Qingqing, everyone else is in line. Isn't it rude for us to cut in? Her words drew a few looks from the people in line, mixed expressions that seemed to say, you can afford first class and you have your own gate, yet you feel the need to comment on it. Chen Qingqing smiled. Auntie, we bought first-class tickets. We're allowed to board through this entrance. Oh. Yang Chexia noticed the faces around them and fell silent. Chen Qing handed their boarding passes to the attendant. After checking them, the attendant bowed slightly and motioned them through. Under a few envious glances, Lin Yang and his parents walked across the jet bridge and stepped onto the plane. A flight attendant greeted them as soon as they entered the cabin, smiling, warm, and composed. She checked their tickets with polite, practiced movements and said in a soft voice, Welcome aboard. I'll show you to your seats. She led the way. The first-class cabin held only 4 seats, spacious and private, and those seats were now theirs. The flight attendant was attentive and efficient, helping stow their luggage and even kneeling to help them into disposable slippers, her movements gentle and professional. Once they were settled, she asked, What would you like to drink? We have juices, coffee, tea, and a selection of alcoholic beverages. When Lin Yang's mother asked for warm water, the attendant handed her a cup, carefully testing the temperature and warning her it was hot. She took drink orders from Lin Yang and his father, jotted them down, and quickly moved off to prepare them. From time to time, she returned to check if they wanted blankets or needed the seat backs adjusted, making sure everyone was comfortable. Back in the economy cabin, boarding had turned chaotic. Passengers poured down the aisle like a tide. the narrow walkway filled with rolling suitcases and people heaving to get past each other. A young man with an oversized backpack wiped sweat from his brow and pushed forward. "Excuse me, coming through. Can you hurry up? Don't dawdle." An impatient man snapped from behind, his luggage clattering against someone else's. "Hey, you bumped me," a passenger objected. Sorry, it's so crowded," the man muttered, half apologetic, half irritated. People on tiptoe stretched for the overhead bins. Some had to jump to cram their bags into place. When a spot ran out, passengers argued briefly about squeezing things in or putting smaller roller bags under the seats. A woman found an empty space and reached to put her bag in, only to have a man shove his in first. "I saw this spot," she protested, but he ignored her and walked away. In first class, everything was different. Lin Yang leaned back in the wide seat, looking out the window and enjoying the quiet. His parents smiled, relaxed and clearly pleased. "Xiaoyang," his mother said softly, "the service here is so much better than the back. That must cost a lot, right?" Lin Yang smiled. "Mom, don't you remember? This trip was a prize from a lottery, free." "Oh, that's right. Well, that's lucky." He thought of the prize. It had been for an economy class ticket. Now they were in first class, no doubt arranged by Chen Qingqing. He wasn't upset. On the contrary, he'd gladly reimburse her for the upgrade later. Lin Yang had flown before, but always in economy on heavily discounted fares, the cheapest seats, usually at the back. There, the engines seemed to roar right behind you. Turbulence felt like being in a small boat on a stormy sea, and seats were cramped next to the bathrooms where unpleasant smells drifted through. If he wanted service in economy, he had to call for it and then anxiously wait, sometimes a long time, for someone to arrive. The difference in first class was almost shocking. Wide seats that reclined nearly flat, plenty of legroom, soft blankets and comfortable pillows. The attendants anticipated needs before anyone asked, attentive and courteous as if they were providing a private, personalized service. He couldn't help thinking how much of life's comfort boiled down to money. From Xing City to Hainan, an economy ticket had cost only 500 yuan. A first-class seat ran about 10 times that, roughly 5,000 yuan. That difference in price bought a completely different travel experience. Having money, he realized, really did make life easier, even in the small things like a flight. After an hour and a half in the air, the plane touched down smoothly at Shanghai City Airport on Nanhai Island. It was still taxiing toward the jet bridge when the economy cabin erupted. People stood up one after another, scrambled for their bags, and shuffled toward the aisles. The sound of dragging luggage and overlapping voices filled the cabin. A tall, broad-shouldered security officer moved quickly down the aisle and planted himself like a wall. His expression was stern. His voice left no room for argument. "Please return to your seats, ladies and gentlemen. The plane hasn't come to a full stop. It's very dangerous to get up now. Please comply with regulations." But impatience drowned out his words. Passengers kept trying to surge forward. In first class, a flight attendant smiled and spoke in a soft, practiced tone to Lin Yang's family. "Hello, distinguished guests. We're about to dock. Please prepare, and we'll assist you with disembarking." Her voice was like a warm breeze, gentle and reassuring. Once the plane had settled at the jet bridge, she opened the door with poise and soon joined Lin Yang's family, helping with their luggage and checking if they'd forgotten anything. Led by the attendant, they rose and walked to the exit at an unhurried pace. Back in economy, a man with an anxious face, sweat beading at his temples, waved his boarding pass and shouted, "I have a connecting flight. Please hurry, my plane is leaving." He sounded desperate, but the security officer remained unmoved, standing his ground. His duty was clear: protect the orderly priority boarding of first-class passengers and keep everyone safe. He didn't clear the aisle until the attendant had ushered Lin Yang's family off the aircraft. Then, in a calm voice, he announced, "You may disembark now. Please leave in an orderly fashion and be careful." The cabin emptied like a released wave, hurried strides, frustrated faces, and a mix of envy and resignation. At baggage claim, Lin Yang's mother, Yang Keishia, took her thermos from her bag and headed straight to the water dispenser. With practiced hands, she filled it with hot water, then pinched a few black goji berries from a small pouch and dropped them into her cup. The berries unfurled slowly, staining the water a deep purple that spread like an inkwash painting. A stylishly dressed woman nearby, someone who had noticed the first-class boarding, couldn't help but comment, "Rich people really know how to keep healthy. Even their goji berries are top tier." Her voice wasn't loud, but in the low hum of the baggage area it caught attention. A man in glasses pushed them up and asked, puzzled, "Black goji berries? Is that a health thing?" A slightly round, middle-aged man leaned in, eager to show off. "Don't you know? Black goji is rare. I've heard it costs over 10,000 yuan a jin." Heads turned toward Yang Kaixia, and an audible ripple of envy and curiosity spread through the small crowd. Yang Kaixia opened her mouth to explain, but Lin Yang gave her a small tug on the sleeve. She looked at him. His face was calm and smiling. She nodded and let the matter drop. Lin Yang watched them with a private sigh. The berries in his mother's cup were nothing exotic, just a slightly pricier variety than the common red goji berries, nothing like the ludicrous figure some people assumed. He thought of a comment he'd once heard. If a rich person carries fake designer goods, people assume they're real. If a poor person owns genuine designer goods, people call them fake. In this world, appearances often trump truth. People evaluated everything by surface and status, rarely caring for the facts underneath. They collected their luggage and stepped out of the arrivals hall to find a low-key but obviously luxurious black minivan waiting. Its lines were clean and smooth. The uniformed driver, wearing white gloves, moved with practiced courtesy and opened the door as if receiving honored guests. Lin Yang's father, Lin Zhengguo, brightened. He circled the vehicle, tapping it lightly, muttering, "Looks solid. What, 200,000 or 300,000 maybe?" Yang Kaixia, however, was worried. She stepped up to the driver and asked, voice anxious, "Sir, how much will it cost to go to the hotel? If it's too expensive, we can't afford it." The driver kept his composed smile. Amused at first, he quickly returned to professional form and replied, "Mr. and Mrs., this has been arranged by the hotel. There's no extra charge." A few business travelers waiting nearby, in crisp suits and carrying briefcases, shot curious glances. They exchanged looks that mixed surprise and disbelief. Why would a family that seemed so unaware of luxury enjoy such VIP treatment? The discrepancy between the parents' casualness and the vehicle's obvious class piqued their interest. Half an hour later, the minivan pulled into the hotel driveway. Inside, the lobby glittered with grandeur. Crystal chandeliers scattered light like falling stars, marble floors shone like mirrors, and gilded frames held sweeping landscapes and impressive historical scenes. A central fountain sent clear water tinkling over carved sculptures, adding a gentle vitality to the space. Lin Yang's parents stood a little stiffly amid the opulence. Their simple clothes made them look out of place. Their hands rubbed together, feet shifted. Yang Kaixia leaned close and asked in a low voice, "Xiao Yang, how much does it cost to stay here for a night?" Her words, though soft, were audible in the quiet lobby. Nearby guests, all polished and fashionable, glanced over with puzzled expressions. When they saw Chen Qingqing move with ease toward the front desk, their confusion deepened. She handled the staff with practiced elegance, her tone assured and her movements precise. She obviously knew this environment well. Every so often, she turned and smiled reassuringly at Lin Yang's family as she completed the check-in. Over the next few days, the family fell into an easy rhythm. They woke naturally, ate to their fill, and took a car to visit local sites. It was their parents' first real trip, and everything felt fresh and exciting. Time passed pleasantly, and before they knew it, June had arrived. On the morning of June 1st, as soon as Lin Yang opened his eyes, a system prompt chimed in his mind. "Ding, monthly intelligence has been pushed. Please check." Lin Yang opened the panel to check and found he had received 8 pieces of intelligence this month. That number felt comfortable. Recent months had been light, and it was the most he'd gotten in a while. Still, he took a risk and hit the reset button. Resetting changed not only the content of the intelligence, but sometimes the number of items as well. If he was lucky, the number would go up. If unlucky, it would drop. He didn't hesitate. Accumulating 5 resets guaranteed a super intelligence, an unlock that had come with the system's upgrade to monthly intelligence, and he wanted that badly. He'd already used the reset 3 times. This would be his 4th use, one step closer to the guarantee. Ding! This month's intelligence has been refreshed. Please check. When the panel updated, Lin Yang nearly jumped out of bed. The count had climbed from 8 to 10. Not only had the reset registered as another use, it had added 2 more pieces of intelligence. It was the second time since he'd acquired the system that he'd received a full set. He calmed himself and began to read. Monthly Intelligence 1. Fishermen off West Island will haul in a giant pteria penguin in the early hours tomorrow morning. It contains a 45mm golden pearl. Unsure whether the shell actually holds a pearl, they're pricing it at only 10,000. Coordinates: Sin Village Pier, stall 37. Go before 8 a.m. to pick up a bargain. Golden pearl? Lin Yang had never heard the term. At first he imagined a golden bead, but since it was inside a shell, it had to be a pearl. He pulled up his phone and searched. The pteria species sometimes produced golden pearls because of a golden edge. Production was rare, about a 1% chance overall, and top-grade golden pearls were rarer than 1 in 10,000. The richer the color and the larger the size, the higher the value. An 18mm golden pearl typically went for around 100,000. A high-quality 25mm once fetched 7 million at auction. A 45mm pearl, nearly double that size, could easily command well over 50 million at auction. And here it was being sold for 10,000. Chen Qingqing's travel itinerary had included West Island. They were staying one night and leaving the next day. The itinerary and the intelligence matched perfectly. Lin Yang felt his luck spike. Monthly Intelligence 2. West Island, though a tourist spot, has dense primeval forests and diverse wildlife. A Yinhuan snake has slipped into room 808 of Jaime Homestay. Changing rooms or requesting animal control is advised. He'd been afraid of snakes since childhood. Once, cool and barefoot in the yard, he'd been bitten by a small snake, and the phobia had stuck. Now the panel warned of a highly venomous serpent, the Yinhuan snake, ranked 4th in the world and 1st in Asia, inside a tourist homestay. He'd read a story the night before about a woman who'd been bitten by a Yinhuan in a hotel, required 16 anti-venom injections, and still suffered severe aftereffects 2 years later. He'd do anything to avoid that homestay. Monthly Intelligence 3. The owner of Guanhai Pavilion, a villa in Haitang Bay, is facing forced auction over gambling debts. The newly renovated, unoccupied villa is going for only 30% of market price, 21 million. It can be bought with full payment. Haitang Bay was one of Shanghai City's 3 major bays: open sea views, gentle breezes, minimal waves, and development around it was restricted to protect the ecosystem. Villas there were scarce, coveted for their views and tranquility. A brand new villa at 30% of market price was a steal. His parents were getting older. Xiangnan province was cold and damp in winter. Buying this villa as a winter retreat or vacation home made sense. Lin Yang made a mental note to follow the auction closely. As he read on, the 4th item on the panel was highlighted in red instead of black. Curious, he opened it. Monthly Intelligence 4. This intelligence is a superintelligence. In half a month, Sinopharma, a renowned anti-cancer drug manufacturer, will discover through research that the GR7 protein reduces cancer cell metastasis by up to 91.7%. The protein is extracted from the sap of a mutated dragon's blood tree, a species unique to South Sea Island. The mutated trees can only be successfully cultivated at Chengguang Farm at the foot of Wuji Mountain. The farm is currently operating at a loss and is preparing to sell. Buying the farm now would allow you to lease it to Sinopharma for cultivation after their GR7 discovery, yielding substantial profits. Lin Yang's heart thudded. He had been hoping for a superintelligence, and getting one now felt like striking gold. Even though he'd only used the reset 4 times so far, 1 shy of the guaranteed 5, luck had handed him a superintelligence early. This was more than a tip. It was a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. If Sinopharma confirmed that GR7 had such a dramatic anti-metastasis effect, demand for the mutated dragon's blood tree would be insatiable. And according to the intelligence, the mutated tree could only be cultivated successfully at Chengguang Farm. That gave whoever owned the farm a monopolistic position. Lin Yang ran the numbers in his head. Renting the farm to Sinopharma would produce an inelastic, steady income stream. Annual rents that could conservatively reach tens of millions, perhaps hundreds of millions. Beyond rent, there was the potential for profit sharing. If he could negotiate a deep partnership, leveraging the farm's unique role in the drug's supply chain, he might secure a cut of the drug's enormous future sales. Once the GR7 drug reached the market, sales could be astronomical. Even a small percentage of that would dwarf ordinary returns. The farm wasn't just real estate, it could be the keystone of a new fortune. Lin Yang sat back, breathless. The reset had cost him risk and patience, but this month's intelligence had more than paid off. Monthly Intelligence 5. The tiramisu sold outside Big Pineapple Mall is made with ordinary eggs instead of sterile ones. Excess bacteria have caused cases of dizziness, diarrhea, and food poisoning. Please do not buy or eat it. Lin Yang knew Big Pineapple Mall was close to the hotel. He had been walking there in the evenings for the past 2 days. At the entrance was a wildly popular tiramisu stall with a long queue. Each piece was decorated with fresh flowers and looked irresistible. Last night, his mother, Yang Keixia, had wanted to try one, but the line was too long and they gave up. Lin Yang felt a secret relief. If they had bought it and his mother had gotten food poisoning, the trip would have been ruined. Monthly Intelligence 6. Popular star Shen Shen has a daughter on DY. He abandoned her because she was unattractive and had congenital heart disease. This can be used as a counterattack at an opportune moment. Shen Shen was a rising idol with countless fans and a squeaky clean image. The idea that he'd do something like this behind fans' backs was explosive. Lin Yang wasn't surprised to see this kind of dirt here. The system had a way of surfacing items connected to people he would meet. Shen Shen was set to be a spokesperson for the iced black tea brand Lin Yang was attending in 2 days, so he would likely be there. The intelligence hinted at a possible conflict between them. Lin Yang filed it away mentally. His rule was simple: don't pick fights unless provoked. If Shen Shen started something, Lin Yang wouldn't hesitate to leak this and crush his comeback. If not, he'd keep quiet. Monthly Intelligence 7. Painter Fan Shan's lost work Grey Tower, valued at 50 million, is hidden in a lining of a cross-stitch in his old house. His descendants are cleaning out the house and selling items to a recycling station. Fan Shan was a famous painter from Shanyai City on Nanhai Island. Lin Yang had watched videos about him online. His surviving oeuvre was small, which made each piece more valuable, especially Grey Tower, which had appeared on the market repeatedly only to be dismissed as a forgery. The idea that the real painting might be tucked away in a cross-stitch in the old family home, and that the heirs were about to sell household goods cheaply to a recycler, felt like a once-in-a-lifetime bargain. Lin Yang looked up Fan Shan's old house address and found it wasn't far from the hotel. He could go check whenever he wanted. Monthly Intelligence 8. Wanted criminal. Hong Jie has appeared on Shanyai Street. She is a fraudster skilled in disguise. A 100,000 reward is offered for information leading to her arrest. This one puzzled him. Since the system's upgrade to monthly intelligence, most entries carried high value. Except for safety and disaster alerts, each piece was worth about 50 million. Why was this worth only 100,000? Was there hidden information? Lin Yang couldn't tell. He figured the intelligence's true worth might only become clear once Hong Jie was apprehended. Monthly Intelligence 9. Shanyai City First People's Hospital has Yinhuan snake antivenom. Timely treatment can save a life. Earlier, the system had warned that a Yinhuan snake had slipped into a guest room at West Island Jaime Homestay. Now it said the hospital stocked the correct antivenom. Lin Yang doubted any of his family would be bitten. He'd already decided not to stay at Jaime Homestay, but the push still obliged him to be extra cautious. If the bitten person turned out to be someone he would interact with later, there was nothing to be done now besides staying alert. Monthly Intelligence 10. 25 tons of rare earth on a transport ship, license plate 022582, at Shanyai City Donghai Port, are disguised as tile adhesive and being smuggled abroad. Report it to prevent strategic resource loss. Rare earths, those 17 elements, including the lanthanides plus scandium and yttrium, were crucial to modern industry. Despite the name, they were indispensable in chips, aircraft, new energy vehicles, wind turbines, satellite communications, and missile guidance. In a time of tightening export controls, smuggling such material abroad was practically treason. Though the intelligence brought Lin Yang no personal gain, he didn't hesitate. He found the reporting number online and called the relevant authority immediately. After reading all 10 items, he checked the system status. Monthly intelligence system, 16,000/30,000. He needed 14,000 more experience to upgrade to the annual intelligence system, 14 more pieces of monthly intelligence. The upgrade would not only raise the value of each tip, but more importantly, expand the time horizon from 1 month to a full year. In effect, he'd be able to foresee events up to a year ahead. The system currently pushed 3 to 10 pieces of intelligence per month, so if he was lucky, it could upgrade in 2 months. At worst, it would take 6. A new feature had unlocked after Hu Qian's dramatic emotional fluctuation. Lin Yang could mark intelligence. After marking the same category 5 times, the system would permanently adjust that category's appearance probability by 5%, up or down. He began marking from the first piece he'd just read. Bargain. Avoid danger. Lin Yang finished marking the 10 intelligence reports for the month. Among them were 3 instances of avoided danger, 2 reports of picking up neglected items, 2 reports of intercepted gains, and the rest were bounties, gossip, or unknowns. The maximum number of marks in any single category was 3. He needed 2 more of the same type to reach 5, which would raise the probability of that category appearing by 5%. He sorted the reports by time and urgency and began processing them one by one. In the past, he would have handled everything personally, but now that he had set up his own investment company, some tasks could be delegated. He picked out the notices about the online auction for the Ocean View Pavilion Villa in Haitang Bay and the Chungwang farm sale, edited them into a concise message, and sent it to Hu Qian. The Ocean View Pavilion Villa in Haitang Bay will be auctioned online in 2 days. Arrange for someone to monitor and bid up to 21 million under my name. Also arrange for staff to come to Hainan immediately to negotiate with the owner of Chungwang Farm. Acquire it as soon as possible. They're operating at a loss and eager to sell, so push the price down. A short while later, Hu Qian replied, I'll arrange it right away. After handing off the work, Lin Yang washed up and went to the hotel restaurant, where his parents and Chen Qingqing were already waiting. The buffet smelled of a dozen different breakfasts, and the family clustered around the table, laughing and enjoying the warm meal. Chen Qingqing took out a neatly prepared itinerary and with practiced politeness reported the day's plans. Uncle, Auntie, today's schedule is full. First, we'll visit the world's largest maritime guanyin statue. It's 108 meters tall, made of titanium alloy, truly impressive. The statue has 3 faces holding a lotus, a sutra, and prayer beads representing wisdom, liberation, and the Dharma body. It embodies deep Buddhist cultural meaning. Standing at its base, you can feel both its majesty and the breadth of Buddhist culture. On the way back, we'll stop briefly at West Island Pier and take a boat to West Island. The island has crystal clear water, white sand beaches, and diverse marine life. It also preserves a rich fishing village culture. Walking the old streets gives a sense of simple tranquility. In the evening, we'll stay overnight on West Island to experience the night there. There are many distinctive guest houses and resorts. The place we booked is right by the sea. We can open the window and hear the waves and enjoy the view. Lin Yang listened, nodding. The itinerary fit perfectly with a piece of intelligence he'd received that morning. Tomorrow, West Island fishermen would haul in a giant white pearl oyster containing a large golden pearl worth tens of millions, a rare chance to pick up a neglected item. After breakfast, everyone would be changing accommodations, so he let Chen Qingqing handle the luggage. She was meticulous. He trusted she would pack everything in order. He took a taxi to the countryside, to the old house of the painter Fan Shan. The posthumous work, Grey Tower, reportedly worth 50 million yuan, was hidden in the interlining of a cross-stitch, and Lin Yang felt both nervous and excited as he approached. The house was a typical 2-story arcade building of Hainan Island, worn but still full of character. The green bricks were mottled, the wooden doors and windows cracked, as if the building itself was telling stories of the past. But the scene that greeted him made his heart drop. Workers were hauling refuse out of the house, throwing things into piles with little care. He hurried over to an older woman directing the clearing and asked what was happening. She told him the owner planned to renovate the building into a guest house, and the crew was from a renovation company. Most of the old items had been taken by a scrap collector early that morning. Panic rose in him. If the cross-stitch had already been hauled away and treated as ordinary scrap, the painting inside might already be gone. He asked the woman where the scrap collector had gone. She wasn't sure of the exact location, but pointed in a direction and said they went that way. Without hesitating, Lin Yang ran after them. He scanned alleys and yards, his eyes darting for anything that might be a scrap heap. Finally, in a corner, he found a yard with a hand-painted sign that read, "Scrap Collection." The iron gate was open. An electric treeshaw stood at the entrance. A middle-aged man was unloading goods. Piles of old furniture, pots, pans, and bottles cluttered the ground. The man caught Lin Yang looking and sized him up. Lin Yang's clean clothes and confident bearing didn't fit the usual scrapyard customer, but the man assumed he was a young renter looking for cheap furniture. He smiled and called out a sales pitch. "Young man, come have a look. This wooden sofa's old but sturdy, good for a rental room. 50 yuan, and it's yours." Lin Yang used the opportunity. He pretended to be interested in the sofa and walked into the yard. "All right, take a look around. We'll settle up when you've chosen," the man said, waving him in. Lin Yang wandered among the piles, feigning interest while searching for any trace of fabric that might hide the cross-stitch. His heartbeat quickened each time he saw cloth. Every scrap of material made his chest tighten with hope. He nearly combed the entire yard but found nothing resembling the cross-stitch. Could the collector be someone else? A pang of disappointment hit him as he prepared to give up. Then, in a corner where vegetables were laid out to dry, he noticed a cloth with a mosaic-like raised pattern under the jars. His eyes widened. The pattern on the drying cloth looked unmistakably like cross-stitch. For a moment he stood very still, the possibility snapping into focus. Had the scrap collector used the cross-stitch as a cloth for drying pickles? The realization sent a surge of excitement through him. If the embroidered cloth containing Fan Shan's posthumous work were really being used to dry pickled vegetables, if the pickle brine seeped into the painting and ruined it, its value would collapse. The loss would be incalculable. Lin Yang felt like a swarm of ants was crawling under his skin, but he knew he couldn't reveal his panic. If the scrap dealer noticed anything, he might raise the price until it wasn't worth it. So Lin Yang forced a calm expression and let his eyes drift around the courtyard. In the corner where the pickles were laid out to dry, a jumble of small bottles and jars, plates, cups, and vases was stacked haphazardly. An idea lit in his head. He pointed and put on an interested tone. "Boss, those pieces look kind of neat. How much for the whole lot?" The man glanced over without much interest. "Big ones, 2 yuan. Small ones, 1 yuan. Count 'em yourself." "All right." Lin Yang squatted and began counting. His fingers moved fast through the pile as he mumbled numbers. 8 big, 14 small. 30 yuan total, he worked out. Then, deliberately frowning as if worried about their safety, he began to rearrange the pile. "These are fragile," he said. "You've stacked them badly. Some are already broken. They'd be worth a lot more if they were wrapped right. Why don't you give me the cloth you're using for the pickles? I'll wrap them up so they don't break." The man shook his head. "No way. If you take this cloth, what am I going to use for the pickles? Get some sacks or something. I need this." Lin Yang felt his chest tighten. That cloth, with the embroidered horse and a hidden layer, was exactly what he wanted. He kept trying. "Come on, look at these. They'll break if you don't wrap them proper. I'll give you an extra 10 yuan for the cloth." The dealer glanced at the pile and did notice the broken pieces. He hesitated, then raised the price. "Fine," he said, 50, and I'll include the cloth. Any less and I won't sell it. Old as it is, it's still useful." "Deal." Lin Yang didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone, scanned the QR code, and sent 50 yuan. In the transfer note, he specified what the money was for, explicitly mentioning the cloth, so if the man backed out later, he'd have proof. After paying, he gently took the pickles out of the cloth. Beneath the embroidered galloping horse, he felt for the hidden layer. fingers trembling a little as they confirmed the seam. His heart kicked up. He was nearly sure this was the cloth that concealed Fan Shan's lost work, a painting rumored to be worth 50 million. The embroidered cloth was large and fragile. Worried about nicking the painting while moving things, Lin Yang wrapped the bottles and jars using the parts of the cloth that didn't have the hidden compartment, layering it carefully so the hidden painting remained untouched. He thanked the man politely and prepared to leave. At that moment, an old man in glasses strolled into the yard, moving slowly. He glanced over the scattered goods, then at the scrap dealer with a familiar smile. "Old Liu, what treasures did you dig up today?" Old Liu looked up and smiled back. "Nothing special. Old furniture, tableware, vases. Have a look if you want." Lin Yang brushed past them. The old man suddenly stopped, turned sharply, and called out, "Young man, wait, what's that you're holding? Can I see it?" Lin Yang's heart jolted. Had the old man noticed something about the embroidered cloth? He smoothed his face into a puzzled, polite look and said, "See what?" The old man's eyes were fixed on the bundle in Lin Yang's hands, a strange gleam in them. "That patterned bowl in there. Can I take a look?" Relief washed through Lin Yang when the man showed interest in the bowl rather than the cloth. He carefully set the package down, took out a porcelain bowl with a large red flower painted on it, and handed it over. "Does this have value?" he asked, keeping his expression appropriately surprised. The old man's hands trembled as he took the bowl. His eyes widened, his breathing quickened, and he stared as if mesmerized. After a moment, he blurted, "This is an enamel-painted poppy poem bowl from the previous dynasty. It's worth at least 100 million on the market." Hearing 100 million set alarm bells clanging in Lin Yang's head. He'd heard every kind of con before: honey traps, staged accidents, switcheroo scams. Valuable treasures don't usually surface by accident at a scrapyard, and the old man's timely arrival felt too convenient. Worse, the system in his head hadn't flagged anything. Were these two working together to scam him? Lin Yang widened his eyes and put on an even more stunned expression. "What? This bowl is really worth that much?" All the while, he kept the old man and old Liu in his peripheral vision, searching their faces for any telltale signs: hesitation, contrived surprise, the small inconsistencies that would give a con away. The old man cradled the bowl in both hands, his fingertips tracing the rim as if touching a memory. His eyes glistened. Slowly, reverently, he began. "Young man, this cloisonné enamel porcelain is no ordinary piece. It was imperial ware, fired for the court itself. A masterpiece made by the finest artisans after countless hours of labor." He paused, swallowed, cleared his throat, and went on. "Back then, the emperor took personal interest in producing pieces like this. The plain bisque was first fired at Jingdezhen, then transported many miles to the palace, where the top craftsmen painted it by hand and fired it again. Every step was honed to perfection. No detail was left to chance." Lin Yang listened, and his mind filled with images of ancient kilns, artisans bending over their work with the focus of people shaping treasures. The old man's voice grew softer, pulled into the past. "The story behind the poppy on this bowl is even more moving," he said, eyes shining. "Legend says Yuji, unwilling to be a burden to Shangyu, took her own life. Her blood soaked the earth, and from it sprang those bright poppies. Since then, poppies have symbolized loyal love and heroic integrity. In the early days of the former dynasty, court painters began to place poppy motifs on porcelain to lock that romance and resilience into art." He pointed to the painted blossom. "Look at these lines, delicate and flowing. Each stroke seems to carry the painter's feeling, and these colors, red like fresh blood, green like jade, so vivid that the petals almost sway. Only court painters could reach this level. Ordinary people rarely saw such craftsmanship." Lin Yang leaned closer. The petals did seem to tremble, frozen in a breeze. The old man's voice dropped into a whisper. "And the poem on the rim, those are lines from Xu Gui's Ode to the Poppy, from the Ming. The verse and the painting answer one another, the poppy dancing in wind, drooping in rain, full of poetry and romance." He let the silence hold the words, as if tasting the rhyme. "In that era, the emperor prized culture and art," the old man concluded. "This cloisonné enamel poppy bowl is more than porcelain. It's a rare treasure that brings painting, calligraphy, and poetry together. It carries a deep cultural heritage and the aesthetic pursuit of its time. Its value, well, it's nearly impossible to measure. Lin Yang nodded, respect rising in him. He almost believed the old man entirely. Then, as if waking from a dream, he reminded himself how elaborate modern scams could be. The story had been compelling, the acting convincing. So convincing he had nearly accepted the old man as an expert. A chill of doubt slid over him when he remembered how oddly calm the junk shop owner had been. When the old man declared the bowl worth over 100 million, the owner had shown no surprise, no regret, only a benign smile as he told Lin Yang, "Young man, your luck is incredible." The owner's tone suggested the bowl had never been his to begin with. Lin Yang felt uneasy. If a man truly owned something worth that much, why would he let it go without protest? Why not at least try to reclaim it? Their tranquility felt staged, too easy, almost unreal. Could this be a new kind of con? Scammers usually push for money. These two had done the opposite. They'd returned the bowl and told him to take care of it. The more he thought, the stranger it seemed. Still, he dared not dismiss the possibility that the bowl was genuine. He decided to verify its authenticity before making any moves. Lin Yang pulled out his phone, photographed the bowl, and sent the picture to Lin Bayan. He asked his friend to check whether the piece could be what the old man claimed. Soon his phone chimed. Lin Bayan's reply was full of excited exclamation. Yes, it was a cloisonné enamel poppy-inscribed bowl, an extremely rare relic from the former dynasty, practically priceless. Lin Bayan wrote at length about the craftsmanship, historical background, and market value, each word brimming with astonishment and envy. Lin Yang stared at the message in stupefaction. He had bought the piece at a junk stall on a whim, and now, according to an expert he trusted, he might be holding an irreplaceable treasure. His hands trembled. He felt both elated and terrified. Elated at his luck, terrified at the thought that the junk shop owner could so nonchalantly let such a treasure go. The junk shop owner, seeing the expression on Lin Yang's face, spoke as if trying to calm him. What is destined to be yours will be yours. What isn't, you can't force. It doesn't matter to me. The old man added, "Young man, it's good to be cautious, but not everyone puts everything on money." Lin Yang wanted to believe them, but skepticism nagged at him. Two possibilities presented themselves. Either these men were absurdly rich and 100 million meant nothing to them, or they simply didn't grasp what 100 million represented. But they didn't look foolish. They were both shrewd in their own ways, so the second option seemed unlikely. The first was even harder to swallow, a second-hand dealer and an old man, both secret millionaires. Still, the bowl was in his hands now. He thanked them, tucked the precious object into his bag, and left. Back at his hotel, he unstitched the cross-stitched lining of the parcel he'd found earlier. Beneath it lay an oil painting, wrapped with care. He unrolled it and gaped. It was Fan Shan's posthumous work, Grey Tower, an acknowledged masterpiece. He had found, in the space of an hour that morning, an oil painting appraised at 50 million and a porcelain bowl said to be worth 100 million. The trip to Nanhai Island had already more than paid for itself. He packed both pieces into his suitcase, then went next door to call his parents and Chen Qingqing. Soon they piled into a minivan and drove toward the South China Sea, Guanyin. His father pulled a newspaper from the seat and began to read. A few minutes later, he muttered and then snapped. And they still call him the richest man. He blamed everything on money. If he hadn't had money, he wouldn't have gambled. His daughter wouldn't have been kidnapped, and she wouldn't have died. It's always someone else's fault with him. Lin Yang looked up. "Dad, what's the story?" His father took a breath and explained. They both knew the tale. The man once called Nanhai Island's richest had fallen into gambling and bankruptcy. His daughter had been kidnapped, and because he couldn't pay the ransom, she had been killed. Afterward, he renounced wealth, insisting money was the source of all his misfortunes. "But that's not the money's fault," Lin Yang's father said bitterly. "It was his character. Many richer men manage fine. He's the one with the problem, yet he keeps blaming money." Lin Yang agreed. Then, his eyes skimmed the newspaper illustration beside the article, and his breath caught. The man pictured bore a startling resemblance to the junk shop owner from that morning. Lin Yang's pulse quickened as disbelief and a cold, uneasy realization settled over him. "Xiao Yang, what's wrong?" Lin Yang's father asked. Lin Yang shook his head. He told himself he must be imagining things. If that man had really been the richest person on South China Sea Island, would he be reduced to scavenging scrap? Even if a wealthy family lost everything, they wouldn't typically sink that low. Still, the thought niggled at him. The hour-long drive passed quietly, filled with family chatter and laughter as they looked forward to seeing the South China Sea, Guanyin. When the car finally slowed to a stop, the statue came into view, over 100 meters tall, standing sentinel beside the sea as if guarding the horizon. The statue, a pure white like carved jade, caught the sunlight and seemed to glow with a soft, sacred light. Blue sky, wispy clouds, green sea, and golden sand framed the scene into a picture-perfect postcard. Waves lapped the shore in a steady, soothing rhythm, and the sea breeze carried the briny tang of ocean air. Chen Qingqing and Lin Yang bustled around their parents, adjusting poses and hunting for flattering angles. Lin Yang's father planted himself in front of the Guanyin with a proud, upright posture. His mother turned slightly, hands clasped, eyes soft with devotion. Every shutter click captured a moment of family contentment. Passers-by took envious glances. An elderly woman nearby couldn't help but exclaim loudly enough for others to hear. "Look at them. The son and daughter-in-law are so filial. They brought their parents all this way and take such care to get the photos right. How wonderful." A man beside her nodded. "You don't see that much these days. They look so happy and harmonious." When Chen Qingqing heard people assuming she was Lin Yang's wife, she didn't correct them. If anything, she enjoyed it. After admiring the statue, they moved to the incense area. Lin Yang's parents were about to choose the ordinary sticks when Chen Qingqing stepped up to the attendant and declared, "Give me the most expensive incense." Lin Yang's parents quickly waved her off. "Daughter, it's the sincerity that counts, not the price," his father said earnestly. "Don't waste money on show." "Exactly," his mother agreed. "As long as your heart's in it, there's no need to splurge." Chen Qingqing smiled and nodded, playing along. "You're right, Auntie. I didn't think. We'll take the ordinary ones." She chose the cheapest set, 3 sticks for 10 yuan, just as his mother preferred. Around them, curious ears overheard, and some of the onlookers reconsidered their own plans. A young mother who had been debating a pricier purchase listened as her little girl tugged her sleeve. "Mom, even those rich people are burning the cheap incense," the child said. "You don't need to buy the expensive ones. We could use the money to buy meat." The mother frowned. "How do you know they're rich?" "I work at a luxury store," the daughter replied confidently. "I can tell from their clothes and bags. That t-shirt costs thousands. Their shoes and bags are tens of thousands." Those nearby who had felt pressured to buy more costly incense out of fear of being judged suddenly felt chastened. If people who could afford designer labels were openly choosing the cheapest sticks, why should they spend more for appearances? The incense vendor, who had hoped for better sales, shot Lin Yang's mother an annoyed look. Then, remembering her customer's apparent affluence, forced a polite smile and swallowed her irritation. After the incense, they climbed the viewing platform around the Guanyin to take in the view. The ocean spread wide and limitless, the surface glittering where the sun struck it. The breeze cooled them, but the sun grew fiercer and the heat became oppressive. Deciding they'd had enough of the midday sun, they left the Guanyin and caught a chartered car to West Island Pier. The ride took about half an hour. The pier was alive with people, luggage and backpacks, excited faces. The sea wind smelled of salt, and waves slapped the embankment with a welcoming whoosh. Lin Yang's parents, first-timers at a seaside pier, looked around with wide eyes and delighted smiles. The boat arrived after a short wait, and they boarded the tour vessel bound for West Island. On deck, they pressed against the railing, watching the pier recede as the boat sliced through white foam. Hair whipped in the wind, and Lin Yang's mother laughed. "This is my first time on a boat. It's wonderful." "Yes," his father said, beaming. "This ocean opens the mind." Half an hour later, they docked at West Island. Waiting for them at the pier was an electric sightseeing cart the guest house had sent. They climbed in and rode along winding island roads framed by tropical foliage, coconut palms, glossy banana leaves, and bright bougainvillea. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in golden patches. The guest house they had booked sat by the sea, its wood and white exterior giving it a breezy, tropical look. A spacious courtyard of flowering plants and greenery led to a pool that shimmered like a sapphire in the sun. Lounge chairs and parasols circled the water. The lobby beyond was simple, warm, and welcoming. Wood floors, white walls, and tasteful chandeliers. A memory from that morning nudged at Lin Yang. An intelligence brief had warned that a Yinhuan snake had been found in a room at Jaime Guest House on West Island. His stomach tightened. At the guest house entrance, he checked the sign, West Island Coastal Guest House, and sighed in relief. Good, they hadn't booked Jaime. They approached the reception desk to check in. Ahead of them, already speaking with the clerk, stood a woman and two younger men. The woman was in her 30s or early 40s, hair loose and wavy, a few strands framing pale, smooth skin. She wore a tight, bright red dress cut to flatter a curvy figure. Despite the fine lines time had left on her face, she retained an alluring, confident charm. Two young men, both around 20, hovered on either side of her, flattering and whispering. She laughed, sometimes covering her mouth, sometimes playfully swatting at them, completely at ease in their company. Lin Yang felt a flicker of recognition. Then he remembered. The alert he had read that morning, a wanted fraudster named Hong Jie, was said to be on South China Sea Island, and reporting her could earn a 100,000 yuan reward. He took out his phone discreetly and pulled up Hong Jie's wanted notice. The photo matched the woman at the desk far more closely than he liked. The bone structure, the way she carried herself, similarities piled up, but faces could be deceiving. Keeping his expression casual, Lin Yang stepped forward and greeted her with an easy smile. "Hello, are you Hong Jie?" The woman froze mid-laugh. She turned toward him, eyes locking on his face. Her pupils dilated, and a sudden, unmistakable light sparked in them. Surprise, then something like delighted recognition. Her painted lips parted to reveal white teeth. A fawning, practiced smile bloomed. She leaned toward him as if drawn, tucking a hand into her hair with a feminine little gesture that seemed deliberately seductive. "Oh, handsome. You know me?" she purred, voice soft and honeyed. Lin Yang watched her closely, probing. "Is your birthday May 20th? She looked delighted, dimpling as she smiled, answer quick and bright. "Yes!" That confirmation tightened something inside him. According to the briefing, Hong Jie's birthday was May 20th. The woman's response made Lin Yang almost certain she was the wanted fraudster. He glanced briefly at Chen Qingqing, catching her eye, and gave a slight look that meant, "Stall her." While Chen prepared to keep Hong Jie talking, Lin Yang readied himself to step away and make the report call. Lin Yang's striking looks only seemed to encourage Hong Jie. She grew bolder, flirting with words and gestures. Her eyes half-lidded, she bit her lip and purred. "You're gorgeous. Why don't you keep this girl company tonight?" She reached for his arm. Lin Yang instinctively stepped back. She leaned closer, voice even more sultry. "You're so handsome. I really like you. Stay with me tonight, and I promise you'll be well rewarded." When he didn't answer, a flash of displeasure crossed her face, but she quickly masked it with a smile. She glanced at the two men beside her, then back at Lin Yang. "How about all three of you stay with me? I won't treat you badly." The two men lit up and nodded enthusiastically. Lin Yang, meanwhile, was only thinking about how to get out, call the police, and collect the reward. He had no interest in her proposition. He ignored her and began scanning for an escape. Hong Jie took his silence for shyness and pressed harder. She swayed her hips, sidled up to him, laid a hand on his shoulder, and deliberately let her nails rake his clothes. In a soft voice, she teased, "Why so quiet? Embarrassed? Don't worry, I understand." She leaned in and breathed close to his ear. "If you agree, I have plenty of money. I guarantee it'll be a night you won't forget." Still no response from Lin Yang. Hong Jie bit her lip. A ruthless look flashed across her features before she forced a winning smile. "If you don't like sharing, fine. I'll send those two away and have you all to myself. I'll give you the money I was going to pay them. Everything. It's not a small amount. You could live pretty comfortably for a long time." Lin Yang snapped back to himself, disgusted. He refused outright. "No. Find someone else." Her smile vanished. It was the first time anyone had ever turned her down. She looked stunned, then furious. Teeth clenched, she hissed, "Don't be ungrateful. If you won't toast with me, you'll pay a forfeit. Don't blame me for being ruthless." The two men egged her on. "She's beautiful and rich. Don't be ungrateful. It's an honor she fancies you." Lin Yang regarded them like clowns, utterly unmoved. He thought, once the police show up, will you still be so cocky? If it weren't for his elderly parents being there, if he wasn't worried about anything accidental happening to them, he might have tried to handle her himself. For their safety, he held back and waited. Hongjae, humiliated that she couldn't break him, flared. She pointed at Lin Yang and his family, then turned to the front desk and snapped, "I'll take all the rooms they booked, at 5 times the price." The front desk clerk's eyes lit up like he'd hit pay dirt. He knew that if a guest booked through the platform and then didn't check in, the hotel would be due triple compensation. But if someone volunteered 5 times the price, he could pocket the extra. West Island tourism was booming. Rooms ran 2,000 to 3,000 a night. An extra 2,000 or 3,000 per room could quickly become a windfall. 3 rooms at 5 times would mean well over 10,000 yuan in extra margin. The boss wasn't on the island, so any overcharge could easily disappear into the clerk's pocket. He smiled ingratiatingly and leaned toward Lin Yang. "Sir, Hongjae is well known on this island and has a lot of influence. If I don't do what she asks, she'd make trouble for me. I can refund your room fees and you can go stay somewhere else." Chen Qingqing snapped. She thought the clerk was making excuses. Hongjae looked like a tourist, not a local with clout. Hands on her hips, she demanded to complain to management. At that moment, Lin Yang noticed something unusual. The cups and some of the other items around the guest house weren't labeled Sicily. The name on the sign had been Jaime. Jaime, wasn't that the place the intel had flagged? The Yinhuan snake had been reported as having slipped into a room at a guest house called Jaime. Lin Yang's voice tightened. "Aren't we at Sicily guest house? Why do these cups say Jaime?" The clerk, not expecting the question, recovered and explained placatingly, "We recently changed owners. Sicily was the old name. Jaime is the new one. Some of the signage hasn't been replaced." Relief and alarm collided in Lin Yang. If Hongjae hadn't made a scene, they might have checked in already, and could easily have been the victims of that snake. He shot Chen Qingqing a look. She didn't understand the reason, but trusted him and stopped pushing the issue. The clerk apologized profusely, then beamed as he checked Hongjae and her 2 companions in. Hongjae strutted off toward the rooms with the 2 men, all swagger and satisfied arrogance. Her triumphant look felt like a needle to Lin Yang, mocking his helplessness. He only smiled, cold and composed. Her victory felt like the calm before a storm to him. He still didn't call the police. Instead, he hung back in the lobby, eyes fixed on the direction she'd gone, mind turning over possibilities. If luck ran its course, maybe Hongjae would end up in the very room the intel had mentioned. The thought shone like a small light in the dark, and Lin Yang decided to wait. He found a corner sofa and sat, pretending to browse his phone, but really watching everything. His parents and Chen Qingqing sat nearby. They didn't know why he held off on calling the police, but trusted that he had a plan. Chen Qingqing leaned close and asked softly, "Why did you tell me not to make a scene? They stole our rooms. Why back down?" Lin Yang's voice was low. "Let's wait. She's so arrogant. Maybe fate will teach her a lesson." Hongjae walked toward the guest house room, flanked by 2 men, her high heels clicking crisply on the tiled floor. Even as she moved, her mind replayed thoughts of Lin Yang with a private sigh. "That kid's richer than these 2 by a mile. Everything he has looks expensive. Too bad he's hard to handle, or I could have made a fortune off him," she thought. At the door, she swiped her card and led the way inside, the men trailing behind like attentive escorts. Once inside, Hongjae flopped onto the bed with a languid smile. "You 2 go take a shower. I'll rest a bit," she said. The men, seeing she'd booked an expensive room, assumed she was wealthy and eager for favors. They nodded readily, dashed into the bathroom, and soon the patter of running water filled the room. A shrewd gleam lit Hongjae's eyes. She slipped off the bed, padded over to their discarded clothes, and began rifling through pockets. Only loose change. She frowned, then grabbed their phones and unlocked them from memory. One WeChat balance, a little over 4,000. The other, just over 9,000, barely enough to cover 3 rooms. Her face darkened. 2 paupers, she muttered. Not willing to give up, she had already memorized their payment passwords. Without hesitation, she transferred the funds into her own account. After seeing the totals, she still felt it wasn't enough. She picked up 2 pairs of pants, thinking if she were discovered, they wouldn't be able to chase her without them. As she stood, something black and white whooshed through the air, brushing her forehead and clattering to the floor. Hong Jae froze, then almost collapsed. A black and white venomous snake lay coiled on the carpet. She screamed and leapt back. The sudden noise startled the snake. It struck, fangs sinking into her ankle. Pain flared, 2 deep puncture marks bloomed on her skin. Terror took her. "Help me," she wailed, collapsing onto the floor, face pale, tears rolling. Water shut off in the bathroom. The 2 men stumbled out, wrapped in towels. They found Hong Jae trembling and snot-faced on the floor and frantically demanded explanations. I was bitten by a venomous snake," she cried, pointing toward the snake, which was already writhing away seeking cover. They saw the snake's black and white pattern and exchanged a look of alarm. Neither was a snake expert, but the pattern screamed danger, likely a Yinhuan snake. "Don't panic. We'll take you to the hospital," one of them said, trying to stay calm as they dressed and helped her to her feet. By then, Lin Yang had only been sitting in the guest house lobby for 10 minutes when the quiet was shattered by Hongji's screams. He looked up to see the 2 men supporting her into the open air, her hair disordered, face ghostly, leaning on them like a rag doll. The front desk attendant hurried over, baffled by the scene. "What's going on?" she asked. "There's a venomous snake in the room. Hong Jae was bitten. We need to get her to the hospital now. We'll claim compensation when she's safe," one of the men barked, panic and anger mixed in his voice. The receptionist paled. A venomous bite in the guest house would expose her skimming of fees. She darted away, fidgeting. Chen Qingqing, who had been standing beside Lin Yang, stared at him in stunned disbelief. Lin Yang had casually said earlier that heaven would punish Hong Ji, and now she'd been bitten. The coincidence prickled at her. Lin Yang noticed her look and smiled a little, composed and oddly satisfied, as if events were unfolding exactly as he'd expected. As the men argued with the desk, Hong Ji's pain sharpened. "Hurry up and take me to the hospital," she snapped. They scrambled to comply, helping her out of the guest house and toward the nearest clinic. Lin Yang watched them leave, his face going serious as he thought through what he'd just seen. A Yinhuan snake bite could be fatal without the correct anti-venom, and on Hainan Island, the serum was stockpiled only at Shanghai City First People's Hospital. If Hong Jae had indeed been bitten by one, that was where she would be taken. He pulled out his phone and called the tip-off hotline. When the line connected, he spoke clearly, deliberately. "Yes, she's at Shanghai City First People's Hospital. I'm sure it's her, the fraudster Hong Jae." He gave the police a detailed description and the information he'd observed, making sure they could act. After hanging up, he felt a small, private relief wash over him. A tip could put a wanted fraudster in police hands and might even bring the reward advertised. More than money, he was curious. Why would a piece of intelligence worth 100,000 yuan appear in the monthly report? Something else was going on, and he wanted to see how it would play out. He gathered his parents and Chen Qingqing and left to find a safer place to stay, his mind still turning over the morning's events. The 2 men drove as fast as they dared and reached a small island clinic. The doctor listened grimly as they described the snake, black and white, with deep fang marks on the ankle. His face tightened. "That's almost certainly a Yinhuan snake. This is serious. We don't have the right anti-venom. She needs Shanghai City First People's Hospital immediately," he said. They didn't hesitate. For their own reasons, hopes of compensation, or simply that they wanted nothing to happen to the woman they'd spent the night with. They lifted Hongji back into the car and sped off toward the city. She was sweating, nauseous, and drowsy. Her skin turned waxy as they raced. When they reached the entrance of Shanghai City First People's Hospital, police officers materialized as if from nowhere, surrounding them in a ring. "What's this? Why are you stopping us?" one of the men exclaimed. "Didn't you know?" an officer said, fixing his gaze on Hong Jae like a predator locking eyes with prey. "She's a wanted fraudster." Shock slammed into the men. They feverishly opened WeChat to check their balances and discovered zeros. Only then did the truth land. They had been conned, the money gone, their bodies used, and now the woman they'd helped was the very criminal the police had been hunting. Across the province, at the Rongcheng City Public Security Bureau, the staff had been teetering on the edge of panic all week. A foreigner named Kyle had come to donate a precious photo album documenting the Japanese invasion of China, irrefutable historical evidence. Shortly after arriving in Rongcheng, the album had been fraudulently obtained, and weeks of investigation had traced the swindle back to the elusive Hong Jie. She was a master of disguise and deception, slipping through different identities with ease. The case had become a political hot potato. The higher-ups demanded results within a week. If the Bureau failed, the consequences would be severe. As the deadline closed in, hope was dwindling. Then the phone rang. The officer who answered listened, eyes widening, energy snapping into his posture. "Really? She's at Shanghai City First People's Hospital?" he said, voice shaking between disbelief and excitement. "Get us the caller's details. We have to thank them. Mobilize the team. This is our chance." At the hospital, the officer secured the scene and read Hong Jie her rights. The men who had thought themselves smart enough to milk a wealthy woman now realized they'd been duped and that their night of easy gain had turned into a bust. Hong Jie, pale and panting from pain and humiliation, watched as the net closed in, caught not by the snake's bite alone, but by a chain of small choices and an informant who had the presence of mind to make a single phone call. After Hong Jie left, Lin Yang and his family checked out of the Jaime homestay and found another guest house nearby. At the desk, Lin Yang asked about Shinkun Pier, leaning forward with bright eyes and barely contained anticipation. "Excuse me, where is Shinkun Pier? Is it far? How do we get there?" The clerk smiled broadly. "Shinkun Pier is on the far side of West Island, a few kilometers away. But don't worry, our place runs a free shuttle with electric sightseeing carts." Relief and gratitude lit Lin Yang's face. He booked the shuttle for 6:30 a.m. the next morning. His parents, hearing he planned to be up early for the pier, assumed he'd be buying fresh seafood and immediately asked to join. Lin Yang agreed at once. Chen Qingqing, his personal assistant, was of course coming too. She had handled the trip's itinerary, expenses, transport, and bookings down to the last detail, and was already very much part of the family's rhythm. This was the longest stretch she'd ever spent with Lin Yang, and she moved through the preparations with practiced efficiency. With the shuttle arranged and check-in finished, the family sat down to dinner at the homestay. The table groaned under seafood, lobsters with jewel-red shells and springy meat that melted in the mouth, fat, roe-filled crabs that released a tempting aroma, steamed grouper with tender flesh and a glossy skin, paired with the delicate fragrance of scallions and ginger, and a large plate of plump clams, opened and juicy, their broth rich and savory. Lin Yang picked up a piece of lobster and closed his eyes as the flavor unfurled. "I've been eating fake seafood," he announced, wide-eyed. Compared to this, everything else was basically zombie meat. His mother sipped the fish soup, then frowned slightly. "I heard seafood on West Island is expensive. Was this meal pricey?" Lin Yang smiled and said, "Not expensive, only 1,000 yuan. His mother relaxed into a pleased smile. "For a scenic area, that's reasonable. It's so fresh and good, much better than what we usually get." Lin Yang said nothing. He'd left out a zero. The meal had actually cost 10,000 yuan. He didn't want to spoil the evening by making them worry. He could afford it. After all, the painting and antique bowl he'd bought that morning were worth well over 150 million yuan. But that wasn't the point. When traveling, it was fine to splurge once in a while. The seafood was wild-caught, exquisitely fresh, and worth the premium. 10,000 yuan was a small sum to him, and he disliked the idea of souring the mood over money. After dinner, they strolled by the sea. The ocean breeze brushed their cheeks with salt and coolness. They wandered slowly along the shoreline, pausing to admire the night view, sharing soft conversation about the day's discoveries. Later, they returned to their rooms to rest for the morning. Sunlight filtered through the curtains and woke Lin Yang. They had a hearty hotel breakfast, fresh bread, strong coffee, eggs, and a variety of fruits, then took the homestay's electric cart to Shinkun Pier. The pier was a hive of activity. Fishing boats, decks full of the night's catches, eased into the harbor. The boats rocked with the swell, and the five-starred red flag at the prow fluttered in the breeze, a bright banner to celebrate a good haul. Tanned fishermen unloaded baskets with satisfied grins, and the pier filled with marine bounty. Shrimp writhed in their containers, crabs waved their pincers as if to intimidate, and fish of every shape and gleam lay in neat heaps. Clams gaped and spat cool droplets, scallops shut like secretive locks. Restaurant owners threaded through the stalls, eyes sharp as hawks, bargaining for the best goods. "Boss, what's your price on those crabs?" "Give me a better deal. Regular customer here," one buyer called, holding up a crab. "Look at them, full of roe. I can't drop the price any lower," the fisherman shot back. Tourists wandered among the stalls, curious and delighted. Children scurried between piles of seafood, pointing and asking endless questions. "Mommy, what's that?" a little boy asked, pointing at a starfish. "That's a starfish," his mother replied patiently. "It lives in the sea. Isn't it beautiful?" The pier hummed with haggling, calls from vendors and bursts of laughter. The air was thick with the salt of the sea and the fresh, briny scent of seafood, an exhilarating, sensory world. Lin Yang stood at the entrance and let his gaze sweep over the crowd. Somewhere in this maze of stalls and baskets, he knew a golden pearl worth over 50 million yuan might be hiding. Each stall was numbered, No. 1, Number 2, Number 3, and he methodically searched them all, eyes sharp, unwilling to miss a single corner. Then he saw it. A giant, white-lipped pearl oyster. It dominated the stall, wider than a man's outstretched arms and nearly half a meter tall. Its shell bore irregular, time-worn patterns that caught the sun. The edges curled up and shimmered faintly with a golden sheen, like nature had tipped it in gold. Many people clustered around, cameras flashing, voices full of wonder. Lin Yang pushed through until he was close. Up close, the oyster's scale was even more impressive. He guesstimated it must weigh at least 100 pounds. A dark-skinned, middle-aged fisherman stood beside it, chest swelling with pride as he explained the find to the crowd. "I hauled this up from the deep yesterday," he announced, loud and pleased. "Took a lot of work to get it on board. If anyone wants it, 10,000 yuan. A ripple of protest passed through the onlookers. "That's ridiculous," someone muttered. "It's still a white-lipped oyster. No matter how big, it's just an oyster. 10,000? "You're asking way too much," the fisherman shrugged. "You don't understand. The real value is the golden pearl inside. A top-quality big golden pearl can fetch millions." An old man scoffed immediately. "You think we're fools? The chance of a white-lipped oyster containing a golden pearl is under 1%. The odds of it being top grade are less than 1 in 10,000. If there were a golden pearl inside, would you really be selling it here? You'd have opened it already." The vendor was already irritable. His day's business had been ruined. Then he noticed Lin Yang, an unusual air about him, smartly dressed, every gesture suggesting money. Lin Yang's eyes were fixed on the giant white pearl oyster, full of curiosity. The vendor decided at once this must be a well-off tourist, his savior. He hurried over, beaming so wide it almost looked practiced. "Handsome, you can tell at a glance you're a connoisseur. This white pearl oyster is a treasure. It's the only kind that can produce golden pearls. Imagine it, a single golden pearl worth a fortune." High-quality golden pearls are in huge demand and rare. Some even go for millions at auction. This oyster's enormous. There's a good chance there's a large, fine golden pearl inside. 10,000 yuan is a steal. It's a sure thing. As he spoke, he made lavish gestures about the size of the hypothetical pearl, his eyes glittering greed. He was almost pleading, as if fearful Lin Yang would walk away. Lin Yang saw the sales pitch for what it was. He knew the vendor was trying to play the naive tourist, to flatter and swindle. But Lin Yang also knew, quietly, without spectacle, that there really was a golden pearl worth over 50 million tucked in that shell. 10,000 was irrelevant. He would have paid much more. He checked his watch. It was getting close to 8 o'clock, and he wanted to finish this before any complications arose. He didn't waste time on argument and moved to buy. The old man who had earlier exposed the vendor stepped forward to stop him. "Young man, don't be foolish," the old man said. "White pearl oysters can produce golden pearls, but the odds are tiny. Ordinary pearls aren't worth much unless they're high quality. Even if this oyster has a pearl, it's probably common. You'll lose money. Don't be impulsive." Others nearby, hearing that white pearl oysters can make golden pearls, pulled out phones and began searching. Comparing the photos and facts to the giant oyster in Lin Yang's hand, many concluded it wouldn't contain a pearl. Someone chimed in, "There's definitely nothing inside it. The boss looks like an experienced fisherman. If there were a golden pearl, he would have opened it himself ages ago." Lin Yang's parents found the arguments persuasive and urged him, "Xiaoyang, they're right. If it were priceless, why would the boss sell it? And for only 10,000. Lin Yang nodded to show he understood and had it under control. His parents stopped arguing. Only Chen Qingqing still believed in him. She knew that whenever Lin Yang made a bold move, it was because he saw an opportunity others didn't. She didn't know how he did it, but she trusted him. The vendor frowned as the crowd's skepticism grew. Their words were ruining his sale. He bristled, glancing at the onlookers with resentment. He had expected the handsome stranger to be turned off by the warnings. Instead, Lin Yang simply asked for the QR code to pay. The vendor, eager now, produced it without hesitation. He didn't want to lose the sale. Beep. 100,000 yuan received. Lin Yang had paid and taken the giant white pearl oyster. The crowd shook their heads, full of regret and disdain. This kid spent 10,000 on a pile of shells. What a fool with too much money, a middle-aged woman said, pouting. Young people these days are so impulsive. If you don't listen to your elders, you deserve to lose, an old man added with a disappointed tone. The boss looks like he knows what he's doing. If something valuable was in there, why sell it to a random tourist? A young man, standing with his arms crossed, sneered. The buyer is never as shrewd as the seller. If there really were a treasure, he wouldn't sell it. This kid's still naive. A man nearby grinned at his companion, pleased with his own worldly wisdom. Mocking words poured in from every direction, but Lin Yang merely smiled and pretended not to hear. He lifted the giant white pearl oyster carefully, ready to leave. No one else knew what he knew, that this ordinary-looking shell was the fortune he was about to claim. Just as he turned to go, an old man burst through the crowd, flanked by two young people. He looked wild with anxiety and regret. Seeing the oyster in Lin Yang's hands, he stamped his foot, beat his chest, and shouted, "Damn it! We're too late!" The sudden outburst froze the crowd. Everyone turned toward the old man, stunned and curious about the cause of his panic. The stall owner recognized the newcomer at once. It was Professor Wang, the marine biologist and master jewelry appraiser who'd been doing popular science live streams down at the pier. The sight of him hit the owner like cold water. Dread tightened his chest. He forced a smile. "Oh, Professor Wang? What's the matter, sir? What do you mean, too late?" Professor Wang ignored him. He pushed through the crowd and planted himself directly in front of Lin Yang, eyes locked on the huge white pearl oyster in Lin Yang's arms as if he could burn through the shell. Young man, you bought it. You bought it." His voice trembled with disbelief and regret. Lin Yang stayed calm, merely nodding. "Yes, I just paid. My God, my God." Professor Wang slapped his thigh and cried out to the two young assistants with him. "I told you, we shouldn't have wasted those few minutes. Look, this is the golden-eyed dragon king, described in the old texts, 1 in 10,000. Records say it appears once in 100 years. Do you know what that means?" "Golden-eyed dragon king?" someone in the crowd echoed. The young man who had been checking information on his phone went pale. He typed, scrolled, and then stared at his screen as if the words didn't belong to the world. Professor, the internet says the last suspected one produced. His phone nearly slipped from his numb fingers. Professor Wang didn't wait. He cut in, voice booming over the pier. It produced the priceless Emperor Golden Pearl. Its color, size, and roundness are unmatched in the world. The last one was found 80 years ago in the South China Sea and fetched an astronomical price at the time, converted to today's value. He drew a breath, staring at the oyster with something like worship. The body characteristics match the records perfectly. Whatever's inside is highly likely the only top-tier Emperor Golden Pearl in existence. Its value, it can't be measured in mere millions. It's a national treasure-level item. It could be worth over 100 million. The words hit the pier like thunder. The laughter and ridicule that had filled the air moments before died instantly. Faces froze, then registered one shock after another. Over 100 million? Someone whispered. National treasure level? Golden-eyed Dragon King, Emperor Golden Pearl. The people who had mocked Lin Yang only moments earlier went pale with regret. The elderly woman who had scoffed, "Fool with too much money," turned beet red, wishing for a hole to crawl into. The old man who dismissed Lin Yang's chances muttered to himself, trembling, "Emperor Golden Pearl, I almost." A young man who'd been scoffing with folded arms felt a cold absurdity wash over him. His smugness had collapsed into self-contempt. Lin Yang's parents stood stunned, staring at Professor Wang, at the unremarkable large oyster in their son's arms, and then at the suddenly reverent faces all around. Their brains had gone blank from the shock. Chen Qingqing gripped Lin Yang's sleeve. She'd always believed in him, but phrases like over 100 million and national treasure level were staggering. She looked at Lin Yang's calm profile with pride and admiration. He never did things unless he was sure, and his confidence now seemed far greater than she had imagined. No one was more distraught than the stall owner. The smile had vanished from his face, replaced by raw panic and regret. His world spun, his chest tightened as if gripped by an invisible hand. He had just sold what might be a treasure worth over 100 million for 10,000 yuan and had been smug about it. "No, impossible, fake. You old fool, you're talking nonsense," he shouted, lunging at Lin Yang like a madman. "What golden-eyed Dragon King? What Emperor Golden Pearl? That's my oyster. I'm not selling it. I'll refund you your 10,000 yuan. Give me the oyster back." He reached to snatch the shell from Lin Yang. Lin Yang's eyes cooled. He hugged the oyster and shifted his body a fraction, effortlessly dodging the owner's grab. "The transaction is complete. Payment and goods are settled." His voice was low, but carried an unarguable weight. "This oyster is mine now. Didn't you just say this was a sure win deal? What, now you want to take it back because you regret it?" The owner choked on the words. His face turned purple. Around them, people began to mutter. How can he sell it and then try to snatch it back? He has no credibility. But if he sold something worth 100 million for 10,000, who wouldn't regret it? Those words stabbed at the owner like needles. Humiliation and fury warred in him. He spun, pointing at Lin Yang and Professor Wang. "You two are in cahoots. You set me up to cheat me. This isn't some golden-eyed Dragon King. I'm calling the police. You fraudsters." He pulled out his phone and dialed. "Fraudsters? Call the police?" Professor Wang scoffed, regaining his composure and bearing. "Excellent. Let the police be witnesses. Invite experts from the Cultural Relics Bureau and the Jewelry Appraisal Center, too. I guarantee what this young man holds is the golden-eyed Dragon King, and there will be an Emperor Golden Pearl inside." Turning to Lin Yang, he said with authority, "Open it, now. Open it in front of everyone. Let the facts speak." At his words, the crowd leaned in. The mockery, the doubt, the pity of earlier had melted into a single electrified anticipation. All eyes were on Lin Yang and the giant white pearl oyster in his arms.